this fear of the nuclear bogey, because even as we are recording this,
Yeah.
Shahbaz Sharif is having a meeting with a bunch of people who are supposed to be part of their nuclear command, if they have a nuclear command, I don't know. Can you explain to me that how fast can they escalate it to become a nuclear threat to India?
You see, firstly, before coming to the details, let me just talk about the Pakistan's ability to call the nuclear bluff. They've been using this nuclear card for too long. In Kargil conflict, the world was worried that this two nuclear nations, neighboring countries, are at war. I mean, it was not full-blown war, but we were fighting each other. And President Bill Clinton really invested himself personally to ensure that he restrained both sides. While we evicted them, but we did not escalate to a nuclear conflict. Then when Uri terrorist attack took place, and remember, Uri happened a few months after Pathankot had happened. And that
You were heading Chinar Corps
Yes,
then?
I was.
Okay.
Mr.
Corps commander.
Yes, Mr. Parikar landed up in my office. We planned that Uri strike, and when I suggested let's do something, because we are only getting defensive all the time. We need to sort of make it heard. We don't have terrorists to send across, so let's go and hit the terrorist camps.
For those who are, are not aware about this situation, I suggest you Google the Uri surgical strikes, and the defense minister, the Raksha Mantri at that time was Manohar Parrikar. So you can Google on that too, and you will get to know the details if you haven't been keeping track. I'm sorry, some say.
No, thank you.
Because there are expats,
yes.
or
and
youngsters who may not know about that. Go ahead, sir.
Right. And my first book, India's Brave Hearts, in the first chapter is about this. The narrative that I'm telling you now.
Right. I'm sorry to interrupt your thought. Yeah.
So when Uri happened, when the Uri surgical strikes took place, we actually, that was a shallow strike, multiple strikes, but only 2, 3, 4, 5 kilometers. But we called the nuclear bluff.
Okay.
So they did not escalate. They were forced to say nothing much has happened. There has been only an RT shelling from across the border. There were no raids and things like that. Why were they forced to say that? Because they didn't, otherwise they would have to engage. Otherwise they would have to, now they have to respond. And they were in no position to respond. So, right. When Balakot happened, precision airstrike, deep inside. And again we called their nuclear bluff, because this time air element, the air fighters had actually crossed across the borders.
Deep into Pakistan.
Yes, so they'd gone inside. So, yet, the military term is, we held the escalatory matrix dominance was held by us. Escalatory dominance was with us. So, we actually on these two occasions, we've actually called their nuclear bluff. Right? Okay. So otherwise for long, they have been waving this nuclear card at us. Having said that, now to your question about how easy it is and how quickly can they launch if they actually get to that. Firstly, there is an escalatory ladder. It is not that the moment some attacks are made, then nuclear weapons can be pulled out.
Okay.
Russia, Ukraine, going to be 4 years, 3.5, 3 years plus. So there is always saber rattling, but they're not using nuclear weapons. But here it is different because both countries have nuclear weapons. So it is actually more of a deterrent here.
Okay.
That having been said,
the MAD doctrine.
Yes,
usually,
so obviously. So if let's say our philosophy is no first use. Our nuclear doctrine says no first use. But it does not stop us from a second use. And it will be devastating. Okay. Pakistan as a country has very little depth. India is a huge country and we have a lot of strategic depth. Coming to their nuclear command authority, yes, they do have a nuclear command authority. It was formulated in the latest edition was in the times of General Musharraf, and they have a proper nuclear command authority. So it is, nuclear attacks or nuclear weapons cannot be launched. It's not as if they're lying in some heavy, safely guarded garages and they can be launched at somebody's orders. There is no nuclear button like that. There is a nuclear command authority to take any decisions that authority has to meet. And I am sure, even in worst of times, even Pakistan, there are saner voices that will prevail. That's one
We are
part.
hoping a lot.
Secondly, nuclear weapons are not, like I said, not ready to. They are not in a ready to launch position.
They are in different
They are
positions.
in different, and by necessity, they are dispersed in different bases. Bases will be in different towns. So, components have to be brought together. They have to be mated. And then the delivery means they have to be taken to the delivery means, and the delivery, whatever platform is to be used, and then there. So it's a long drawn process. It involves a number of components and a number of people, different.
How do we know that it's not already been done?
When such things happen, there are some large vehicles that move. There at all the 9 nuclear countries, the international bodies have an overwatch. The inspectors are allowed to come and see the facilities.
So when the radioactive material moves...
No, when anything moves,
Huh.
the satellites are watching, the world is watching, the intelligence community of all the big countries is watching, because a nuclear attack, however small it may be, will affect not only those 2 countries, it will affect the world.
Okay.
It will. And it has, then there is no stopping it. There is, you see, if a country uses it, the other country will also not stop.
Right. Yeah.
So that will happen.
Huh.
So what I'm trying to say is that using the nuclear weapon is not going to be as easy as it is said.
Yeah. So their leadership often does that. They use the terms very loosely.
Yes.
We had General Dhillon here who was saying कि उनके जो Sheikh Rashid हैं, even Fawad Chaudhry, they all keep saying हमारे पास 5 किलो का bomb है.
true.
हम,
They have a
हम bomb फेंक देंगे and all that. Why is it that on the Indian side, even though we have so many more politicians, our country is so large, rarely do you hear
anyone use
this kind of loose talk
Yes.
about our nuclear weapon? It doesn't, I guess it's not in the part of our psyche, right?
Not at all. You see, Pakistan knows that it is no match for India in conventional terms.
So hence
And that is why they've launched this war by death by 1,000 cuts and all that. That's their policy.
Right.
Right. So, but India has no reasons to do that. We are too big. We are a responsible nation. Even our irresponsible politicians, sorry for saying that, even some of the
they don't.
irresponsible politicians don't make such statements about nuclear card.
Do subscribe to the ANI Clips channel to get shorter versions of this podcast. Click here to watch the full episode.